Hello, welcome to another Star Wars conversion. Now, this would be the Melter-Gun Veteran Squad. As I said, the Sergeant with the orange shoulder pad should show rank. Now, I haven't finished this squad, but I'm making this video for a painting tutorial. So, basically, to build these guys, you cut off the base of the Space Marine helmet, and then the little tiny top collar of the Imperial Guard, you cut that off and they glue on straight like that. And then what I've done is I've given it a complete undercoat spray of Skull White. I've let that dry and I've given it a second undercoat spray. I had to give him a third one as well, but that was because I'd pre-painted this for the other army, my scrag guard. So the next part of painting is black Dadab wash. Oh, sorry, Badab wash. So place this down. Try and get you a decent video as good as I possibly can. Now with the black wash, you got to be generous. Be very, very generous, because this is actually the most important part of painting these models. So just chuck it all over the model, and if you start running thin, just keep going. Just big. I mean, look, I'm pretty much turning him black. And you will think to yourself while doing this, this is wrong. Why are we making the white model turn grey or black? It don't make no sense. But this is what washes and inks are for. This is to bring out every single tiny bit of detail that you can find on a single model. Be very generous, use a lot of this stuff, and just pile it all over your model. Make sure every single tiny little crack starts to show through in black, because this will bring out all the details that you never actually knew were there. So you just chuck it on all over the entire model. Now with Star Wars, I've got my son starting to watch Star Wars. I took him to see the new movie. He absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, that was the first one he's ever actually seen. He watched number 7 first. So, at the moment, he's in the other room. He's watched the first one, and he's watching the second one, Clone Wars, right now. He's fallen in love with Star Wars. But then again, what little 5-year-old isn't going to love Star Wars with the sword fights and the lasers and... yeah. Especially if they like Warhammer. I'll do a video, a battle against him, record it for the channel as well sometime, and show you how kids can think. Right, it's not important to actually paint the rifle, but make sure you get it on his hands. You want them fingertips to show through. And then after you've painted the entire model, just quickly scan over the model. So say his eye at the moment, I know you can't see it because of bad video quality, but his eye at the moment is mostly white. So I'll just do a quick dab there, and you can see it's black there. And just go over and just let that ink sink into every crevice. Make sure every tiny little edge, every bit of detail is covered, because you need all of that detail to shine through. Because this is actually the most important part of painting these stormtroopers. As I said, be generous, don't worry, they will go white again, but that's another part. Okay, now we've got to let this model dry before we move on to the next part. Trying to get too much on my fingers, I want it to stay on the actual model. But if you look at his trousers, every crease of his legs, even the armour plating around his boots, his belt, the armour, everything, even the fingertips, is all shining through, so you can actually see every tiny little bit of detail. Now I can't see it on the video at the moment, but there's actually a thin line just around the bottom of his coat there, of his tunic, and around the pockets. I've picked that out on a couple of these models that I have painted. But you see all them tiny creases in their trousers I've managed to get hold of. So yeah, I'll let this model dry, and then I'll show you the next stage. Welcome to another stage of it. Now he's fully dried, the next part is, funny enough, detail again. Now once you've done the black wash, you'll be able to see where all of the grooves are in his clothes, his armour, in everything. Now you want to go over this model very carefully and just look at where there's missing any detail. So if you see there's a white spot just on his shoulder, that should be black. So anywhere where the ink hasn't sunk in. And I also use this time to darken his eyes, because they're supposed to be pitch black. So this stage I use Abaddon black. Now I use a very fine paintbrush for this, a very fine tip, because this stage I want to get it absolutely perfect, bang on, but it isn't important. This is the touch-up stage. The detail was in the ink or the wash. This is just a touch-up stage. So first off, we'll go for that little black spot there. Don't need a lot because this will be a lot darker. And that's that shoulder pad sorted. That'll dry to a slightly brighter stage. And if you look on his helmet, it's actually white where it's supposed to be black. So you very finely add in the black. You don't need a hell of a lot of paint on the paintbrush because, well, this is just touch-up stage. And you just very finely add in that little black spot. Just a little line going up against his helmet. Now the usual place that I find the ink sometimes misses is the front of his helmet. That tiny little bit just there. It usually misses that. So keep an eye out on that one. Right. And then when you've gone over the model and done all your little touch-ups, very finally do his eyes. A very small amount of paint again, and you just dab a little in his eyes. You don't have to go right to the edge, it's not important. I tend to go both angles, going from the corner to the middle. Obviously if you're not a fine painter, you don't have to. I mean, look, I've gone over on that bit, so he's actually gone onto his helmet instead of just in the eye. I'm not a fine painter, but that's fine. It's okay to make little mistakes at this stage. And then once you've gone over his eyes and touched up everywhere, do his gun, the entire rifle. Paint the entire thing black. As before, don't worry about being too fine. This is just the touch-up stage. Any mistakes you make now you can bring back, so don't worry too much about it. You just want his entire rifle completely black. It will be the darkest point on the trooper. I'm taking it out of shot at the moment just so I can try and speed it up closer to my eyes. So while I quickly go across this dude, let's start a little chat. Right, now I do already have my first opponent for this army once I have finished it. He's a very good YouTuber. I've challenged him for when I've finished building and painting the entire army. I'm going to check out Commissar Warwick. He has, or I have, challenged the Commissar with the Order 66. And the list that I use, or I'm going to use for the Order 66, is absolutely nothing like Commissar Warwick's usual list. And I've never used a pure veteran list myself, so this could be quite new. This is new ground for me as well as it is for him, so it should turn out to be a very good battle. Just got to get everything finished That's a hell of a lot of painting to do, and I've still got a lot of converting to do. Only a couple more models to purchase to finish it all, but I'll get there. If you're dedicated to something, keep at it. And checking out Commissar Warwick's channel, I was watching one of his last videos. He was brought up a good comment about if you're in a battle and you're getting absolutely annihilated, what do? Do you hand in the towel and shake hands and give up? Or do you fight to the end? Me, like Warwick, I prefer to fight to the end. And the other day, I was in a match with the scrag guard and I was getting absolutely annihilated. I only had a few models left on the board. The bloke that I was up against though, he had never in his life managed to table anyone. So even though we still rolled and it was the end of game, he won anyway, points wise, but we thought we'd play it out and see if he could table me. We run out of time for turn 7, and in turn 6 he managed to wipe me all the way down to nothing but a lemon rust battle tank with 1 hull point. It was a good game. And yes, hopefully I will soon start getting some battle reports on the channel for you guys. It is at the moment, unfortunately, all about timing, because obviously when you have a kid you don't really have a lot of time spare. Any of you, the guys out there that have kids, you'll understand what I'm talking about there. Right, and there we have it. He has all of the details sorted and finally finalised on him. Now we'll wait for the black to dry so we can move on to the next stage, which is one of the main stages to bring him about what he's actually supposed to look like, which is our stormtrooper. So there we have it. Doesn't look a whole lot at the moment. Get a better view. There we go. It looks like a right mess at the moment. There's no real stormtrooper looks about him whatsoever. And this is just one painting method. There are other forms. Right, so we'll let him dry and I'll crack on with the next bit. Okay, next stage. This is the most difficult part. You need white scar air and a very, very fine tipped paintbrush. Now, this is definitely the most difficult part, and you want literally the least amount of paint on the tip of your paintbrush. Now what you got to do, let's see if I can get some better light, is from the corner of his eye you go down at an angle and leave them 2 blobs where the ink went in, and you just fill in the gap, go down on the rounded edge bit and just go along. This is definitely the most difficult part and the part that takes the longest to do. And then just fill in all of the bits that are white. Right, and then the helmet, you've got that grey line that goes all the way around. You want to leave that and just work right beside it. Like so, because all that black detail you are going to want to leave. Now obviously you could have done the white first, and if you have a very fine paintbrush and a very, very fine hand, you could fill in the black detail after. I don't like that idea because I'm not a painter. I don't paint very well. The only reason I'm doing the video on this is because I have actually been wanting to do this Star Wars conversion for a very long time, so I'm actually proud of what I managed to do. Obviously it does help to be proud with your project. I've got to stop calling it Star Wars. It's not Star Wars, it's Order 66. Just take your time. I'll try and get it in video a bit more so you can see what I'm doing. It's hard to try and focus on the video and on the painting at the same time and try and get it perfect, bang on. In fact, I'd say it's almost impossible. Obviously I am dipping the brush a hell of a lot in the paint, but that's because I'm only choosing very, very little amounts on the paintbrush so I can get all the detail. So I'm using up the paint a lot quicker. Now it doesn't matter if you get grey bits coming through the paint. You're not after a full white coat. At the moment you're just after getting the baseline of the white on, because there is another stage of white. Right. This bit just, you don't have to be too time consuming on this bit because it's just a big flat area that goes around. You want to try your hardest not to make any mistakes on this stage, because you start covering up any of them black bits of detail, you're going to lose that bit of detail, and it's very, very hard to get that bit of detail back. You need a very extremely steady hand and an extremely fine paintbrush. That is where people start complaining, saying that they can't paint. Obviously I say I can't paint. Anyone can paint. It's just having the know-how of how to get the detail out. Right, and then if you look on their shoulder pads, they've got two little straps. Do them. And this is where it starts getting tricky. Now on the neck they've got a very fine bit. Just leave the black and just go over that grey bit like so, and then work on their back armour. Right, back armour, what I tend to do is I tend to start on the bottom there and go just beneath the black bit of the strap, and then I tend to go under his arm where the armour carries on, and not go onto the black bit because I want that detail to stay there. Go over the top half of the armour, trying to go into that tiny little crack in between the strap and his neck collar. And same the other side. Straight down under his arm as far as you can see the armour. Now this bit, go under there, and then the next bit should be quite simple. Just do the top bit there, and then a slightly more difficult bit is the corners of that. Just very gently, don't go all the way, on top, bottom and sides. Actually no, I don't bother with the bottom. Okay, the next bit is the belt. Obviously the belt and Imperial guard go up the back, so try and stick in the middle. Try not to go over them black lines. This is what I mean, this is definitely the most difficult part of painting these guys, and the most time consuming. And it helps to have a steady hand. I definitely don't, so every now and then I'm going over these black lines. And obviously there's not a whole lot you can do to recover. I could go back over with a paintbrush, and a very fine paintbrush and black, and try and cover them lines back up again, but in the end I think I'd much prefer to leave a little bit of detail missing than to mess it up. Okay, so now this bit here, I'll try and get, yeah, that's probably the best video for you. Now there's a lot of detail in these bits here, so take your time and just go over the grey bits. Try and leave all the tiniest bits of black detail. And it goes round the side. And then the other side. And if you look here, what I'm doing is I've done a tiny little line and a tiny one. I'll go back up there because there's actually a crease in the middle of this little bit. Like so. Right, now the arms, same again. Go over the entire grey bits. You want to leave all the black, because all that detail on that ink or wash is what creates the model to look the way it does. Now this here is going to take quite a while to go over all of these little bits of detail, so I'm going to turn the camera off because it is going to take a long time, and I'll turn it back on when I've finished. So I've gone over it all, And look on his trousers and his boots, everywhere that I could possibly put the white scar, I have put it and left as much of the black as possible. Obviously where you see the paint coming off onto my fingers at the moment, that's because what I also do is I will put a second coat on, so if anywhere has come up a little bit too grey, so the white hasn't actually gone onto the model properly, I will do a second coat or just on that one little bit, just to bring the white out a bit more. So we'll let this guy dry, then we can crack on with the next stage. The next stage. Now, next stage is skull white. Now, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be the same as white scar, because, well, they practically look exactly the same sort of white. But I find, because this is an air, these white scar, it's more watery than skull white, and the skull white is actually slightly thicker colour. I know this is an older model, so I don't know what the new version is called, but it actually goes on the model a lot better. So now, the basis on this bit is very easy. It is very easy to do this bit. Get a nice old blob of paint on the paintbrush, and you look over the model for the most largest areas and the bits that you want the brightest. Now this bit, if the camera will focus, I know it's a bit dark at the moment, I've got the light behind me. You just dab it on in the middle. Don't worry about getting it to the edges, you just want to brighten up that white. You don't need to go anywhere near the black detail, because you want it to fade into the white. So you just stick with the edge, stick with the centre of the white bits, and then once I've done his helmet, I'll show you what the difference is. Okay, so I've done just his helmet. I haven't taken time at all, you don't need to. If I just bring it over here into the light, you see that his helmet has actually come up a lot whiter than the rest of him. So all you've got to do is go over the entire model like that. Just look for the large areas. Don't worry about the fine details, you leave them. So basically armour on his back, even a single little line will do. Just don't go near the edges. It's just to bring that white up a bit more, and this is a lot thicker, so it'll stick out model a lot more. Shoulder bites. Obviously I'm trying to rush a little bit here, so I've accidentally put a little bit on his gun. Thank God it was just on his gun. If it was on a bit of detail, I would have screwed that detail up and I'd have to miss it completely. I'll add a bit more on his helmet here. Brighten it up a bit. Right, same with his tunic. Very simple. That'd be a text message. I'll read it in a sec. I like the older paints. They're a bit thicker. They go on a lot easier. And his belt, just one line straight down the middle. Don't go near that detail. So that's his back done. Pouch, very simple. And this will just bring out the white on him, make him look more like an old stormtrooper, which is what you're after. They say that these are still parts of his boots on quite a few sites when they paint them, but once you put that oil on, it actually looks like a second part of armour. Shin pads. Alright, almost done here. Pockets, I can add a little bit extra white on there, bring them out a bit. Armour, if you can, try and get all the armour, bring it out, bring out all the whitener. But don't go near that detail, remember. You want to keep that. And there's a big old white patch there, so I'll just brighten that up a bit with a bit of skull white. Right, that's it. That's what I mean. This stage was very simple. And it just brings him out a bit more. See if I can't get a bit of video. Focus. There. Very simple stage. Okay, let him dry and we'll move on to the next stage. Final stage. I use lead belcher. If that's going to focus. No, it's not going to focus. Okay. Now, with lead belcher, it is quite literally very small amounts needed. So you do the ammo pouch on his gun. Very simple. Then you do the Aquila on his rifle. Also very simple. And then you do the muzzle, the barrel. I tend to leave the very tip of the barrel black. Most people paint that silver as well. It's up to you. and then the sights, which don't really look like sights. I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be. It's just a metal pole that leads through the rifle. Obviously, before I started the video again, I went over that little bit on the rifle that I did a mistake on. And then the last bit is grenade. Go over the entire grenade with it. Obviously, you're going to have that little bit of detail from the black wash. You can keep that, dry brush, up to you. But that is it. That is Stormtrooper finished. Literally the longest and hardest part is sorting out that white detail from the white scar white. That is the point where people will start giving up and saying, I can't be bothered, it takes too long. Just stop and give yourself a break. And in doing that model, we have the first squadron finished. So, we've got metal gun vets, the orange on the sergeant's shoulder pad, and plenty of riflemen. So, that is the next squad done. Hope you enjoyed the paint tutorial. I'll get back to you when I've finished off the next model or unit. Take it easy. Good gaming.